Morning, everybody. Calling this December 14th, 2021 meeting of the Board of Fair Commissioners to order. Before we jump into the agenda, it's obvious up here we're a little lesser in number this month, maybe, but no less in spirit, right? But I thought it was important that we start out recognizing our former fellow commissioner and chairperson, Erin McAnally, who resigned from the Board of Fair Commissioners a few weeks ago. I had a chance to sit down with Erin after she resigned and talk for a good long time, and I think we would all probably agree that Erin led this commission and this board through an enormously challenging time over the last year and a half. And she did it with grace and resolve, and with really kind of a wise restraint, which some of us, including the person sitting in this chair, could probably always learn from. So I just want to recognize Erin's tenure on this board. And I know with her undergoing a move, I don't think it was possible for her to be here today. Hopefully she will be here at a future meeting so we can recognize her even more appropriately. But just on behalf of myself and I'm sure the other commissioners, thank you to Erin McAnally for her service to the city and service to this board and service to the Fairgrounds. It's very much appreciated, and it made a difference. Moving on to the agenda. Approval of minutes from the previous meeting, and commissioners, I think we have minutes from both meetings that were held in October, the October 12th, 2021 meeting, as well as the October 20th, 2021 special called meeting. So if we want to review the minutes for the October 12th meeting first, and I will entertain a motion.
Move to accept the minutes as written.
Second.
With a motion and a second, all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Aye. Minutes for the October 12th meeting are approved. Moving on to the October 20th special meeting minutes.
Motion we approve.
Have we heard a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes for October 20th, 2021?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next on the agenda is public comment time. Oh, counsel, I did not, I got ahead of myself. I should read the legal notice, shouldn't I? Yeah. Before we go any further, as information for our audience, if you are not satisfied with a decision made by the Metropolitan Board of Fair Commissioners today, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of entry of the board's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact your own independent legal counsel. Okay, public comment time. We have 15 minutes total of public comment time, and a limit of 2 minutes per person for their comments. Do we have any public comments today? Okay, I think that is a no. So we will move on to monthly reports from our staff. Financial report.
Good morning, everyone. The financial information presented today is preliminary, and all revenue and expenses for November 2021 may not have been recorded to the ledgers as of December 13th, 2021, when this report was created. The preliminary actuals through November 2021 are as follows. Revenue is $1.2 million, which includes the Community Development Block Grant, funds of $663,000. Expenditures around $865,600, resulting in a net gain of approximately $340,531. Depreciation expense is zero, so the total net gain is roughly $340,531. Below you will find an itemized list of our expenditures. Our top three expenses are payroll, utilities, and insurance and low cap. Payroll expense is approximately $421,500, which represents 49% of our total expenses. Utilities expense is $196,183, which is 23%. Insurance permits low cap expense is $55,144, which is 6% of our total expenses. For the month of December, our revenue projection is approximately $65,400. We anticipate 31% collection of revenue from flea market, 21% from parking, and 15% from Expo 2. On the agent report for this month, we have $500 of outstanding invoices. The promoter has been invoiced, and we anticipate receipt of payment soon. This concludes the financial report. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Thank you for that, Patrice. I was just kind of curious, looking through the rest of the fiscal year, how our bookings project comparatively to last year? Do you feel like we're gonna, have a full booking schedule to meet our budget, or?
According to our booking schedule for events, we're pretty much on course of what we did in 2019. However, when it comes to flea market, we're down about 75%, 80% down.
Okay.
We are working with the flea market staff to come up with an incentive plan to increase our dealer participation.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Satrice? Thanks, Satrice. Moving on to Executive Director's report.
Good morning. I just have one thing, since we have, a lot of my comments will be reserved for some of the later agenda items, but I did want to just bring something up for general information and discussion. As we go through the next phase of the Fair Park development, one of the things that we are going to have to address at some time also, because the contract has expired, is the Lamar billboards. You may know that we have several billboards that line Nolensville Pike. We've got a digital board on Nolensville Pike and Craighead, and then we have several more that are from along Craighead from Nolensville to Bransford. In the past, we have RFP'd advertising, which resulted in the construction of those billboards. The revenue to us is $900 per month. And since the contract expired, we need to make a decision at some point whether or not we want to go out and RFP that. One of the things that we're looking at with GHP is how those billboards will impact the Fair Park Phase 2 design. Also, is it smart to have a structure like that in a floodway and or buffer if they are located within those boundaries? And do we want to have them? The revenue is not significant enough to make it a financial decision. However, I will say that with the soccer stadium opening, I do anticipate that the value of those will significantly increase due to the exposure increases that we're going to have on the properties. So anyway, I bring it up for just general, thoughts and discussions, and not that we have to take any action, but is something we're contemplating on what those next steps should be with advertising on the property.
Do we know what cost looks like for, removal?
I don't, but the existing contract does put that in Lamar's responsibility to remove them if we go in another direction.
Okay. And my next question is I'm kind of along the lines of your thought with soccer and perhaps other projects coming, even without, I mean, just where we are in this area and the changes that are happening in the surrounding area. I wonder if even the value we're paying now is low for what we could be getting on the open market. And I'm just wondering, do we have any sort of resources or help we could get from the Department of Finance, perhaps on getting a little bit of data and information to know what kind of asset we're looking at there and potential, I mean, certainly with soccer, but even just right now.
Yeah, I had a chance to look up some other advertising contracts with Metro. I'd like to, this is a conversation also that I have not yet had with Mary. I think that would be helpful because we can probably leverage, that exposure. And then also part of the contract allows us to have a reduced rate on advertising. I think there's a lot of value in having that digital billboard along Nolensville. But the other ones, the static billboards, I don't know. Right now, they're graffiti magnets, and that's a challenge. It certainly doesn't lend to the aesthetic and the environment that we want surrounding the fairgrounds is just graffiti-filled billboards. But I do also think that there's more value out there. And I know that there's also been some new advertising companies that have come into Nashville since then. So I think that competition could also drive up the value of those billboards.
Chair, I think it's maybe worthwhile for us to look at the value, not only to the fairgrounds, but to the neighborhoods, to investigate maybe digital billboards in addition to the one we've got, and have that as we can make it a revenue driver. And I think that maybe we should engage somebody from the administration that might be appropriate to bring somebody in from the private sector that can look at this with us to see what makes the best long-term sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. I mean, and then I think the piece none of us have talked about yet is, of course, ensuring that what we're thinking about for Fair Park Phase 2 works. I think we can't always only be looking at the revenue, although it seems like there's a lot more revenue potential there if we can do it in a way that is not disruptive to what we're doing with Phase 2. And also, I think per Laura's comment about concerns about vandalism, I mean, Fair Park Phase 2 will be a lot more open on a regular basis, whereas that space now isn't necessarily totally accessible to, so we'll have to keep that in mind. So some balancing factors there.
We may also want to look at traffic patterns that are projected to identify, if we want to keep them all or if we want to.
We've got lots of traffic studies out there coming down the line and already done, don't we?
Absolutely.
Chair.
Commissioner Hemmer.
Laura, I had one other thing to add. It's just when you're doing your due diligence on that, you mentioned we currently have a discounted rate for advertising. Just looking at the possibility of whether we could get free advertising as part of the next RFP. Showing our upcoming events. On the digital side, might make sense as well.
Any other comments or questions on that one? Thank you for that update, Laura. Event update, is that you as well?
Partial.
Okay.
It's kind of a good time. I've added this to our monthly reports just because we've got a lot going on. I see we have a couple elected officials here. Welcome. Appreciate you guys coming. We have flea market, as Satrice mentioned, we're about 75 to 80% down right now for revenue. We reopened the outdoor flea market in May. We reopened to indoor and outdoor in October. We're averaging about 250 to 280 booths, which is, significantly reduced from what we're used to at about 1,400. Part of the reason for that is the length of closure. Many of the other markets were closed 2 to 4 months. We were closed 18 months. a little bit longer if you consider that we didn't open indoor until October. Some of our vendors have found other opportunities. They had to, out of necessity. During our closure, they went to other markets and are finding success. Others have decided, I think in the long time off, they either decided to retire from the flea market business or lost their businesses. We know of a few that couldn't afford to continue. So there's an opportunity here for a recruitment. Satrice mentioned that we're going to be working on an incentive or referral program because our best advocates are our current vendors to recruit additional vendors from the circuit that they travel. And so that's going to be a really important step to help us in the rebound. And I will remind you, although I was not here in Nashville at the time, we were presented with a very similar situation back in the early 2010s, where our flea market kind of suffered the side effects of a potential closure of the Fairgrounds. And we rebounded very successfully from that. It took a while and it took a lot of effort, but we did rebound very strongly. And I have every confidence that we're going to rebound here with thoughtful programs on how to reach new vendors. And you know, the customer is still coming. The foot traffic is good. Parking is good. So we know the customers still want to shop here and to participate in the flea market. We just need to recruit more vendors.
Thank you for that. I was just wondering if it was possible, or you know, I guess I'm not sure what would be the competing flea markets that's you know, additional counties, or just, you know, ones we want to recruit from, if it would be possible for the flea market staff when we create this incentive plan, and maybe make some flyers, brochures, go to some of these you know, congruent counties or other, you know, like markets, and just do some old-fashioned marketing.
Yeah, that's one part of the plan, is to create some informational material that vendors can take with them. And then the idea would be, if they recruit a new member who books, you know, throwing it out there 2 months in a row, they could get a discount on their booth for recruiting someone new. So yeah, twofold. I know that flea market staff has reached out to certain other flea markets. Some of the challenge is they're not all willing to talk to us about what their financial status is at this time, and whether or not their revenue is suffering like ours from the effects of the pandemic. We know, at least from talking to vendors, that has dropped off, that they're rebuilding as well. We just don't know to what extent they were down. So anyway, we're working on a really good plan. Our goal would be to certainly be up to 100%, our 2019 100% as soon as possible. But we need to also be realistic and know that that's going to come with a little bit of time. As far as the events, I gave you the first quarter. Molly is out of the office this week, but I went ahead and ran off January, February, March. If you look at the event calendar, Commissioner Hemmer, to your question earlier to Satrice, how do our event bookings look? Really strong. First quarter of the calendar year has always been a really good month for us, and you can see here that we've got a lot of activities scheduled. It's going to be probably one of our largest quarters. Oh, it was supposed, sorry. March was on there. It was, I guess it didn't print off. Yeah, I don't know what happened to March there, but March is going to be just as busy and actually busier than January and February. So we have events every single weekend, and we're going to be very, very busy.
Chairman Bergeron was hoping to attend and take the bar exam in February. Is that possible?
Yes.
Just saying those words out loud.
I know.
Said the same.
Alex, Tom, and our chair are cringing.
Yeah, I'll make sure my sister knows that, Judge.
No, we're not doing that. Tom's overdue. He took it so long ago that I think he has to take it again. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
we
why.
are very grateful. We've done several. Apparently, back in the day, we were talking about the bar exam and these testing opportunities in the that we've had in the past. We've also done RN boards. It would be really great to kind of, again, reach out and try to secure some of those other midweek testing and luncheon opportunities. And I'll kind of get to that strategy when we get down to staffing update. If there's no event questions, I have Scott here. I asked him to give you a little bit of an update on where we are with our divisional fair and some of the planning that we've been working on. Scott has done an amazing job so far at putting together an extremely detailed budget, to the chagrin, I think, of downtown and our budget analyst. But also identifying what activities need to happen now to prepare for a fair in September.
I want to make sure, okay, it's on. I just want to say good morning, commissioners. I'm excited to be back at Metro, and I'm really excited to be working with Laura and her team. It's been a great pleasure to be back, and it's exciting to create a divisional fair here on the grounds that will reflect what the community and what Nashville is becoming, and looking forward to that. And of course, right now the name that has been decided is the Nashville Fair. Right now we are working with procurement to get our secure a website provider, carnival provider, a lot of other things like livestock panels and those kind of things that we need to purchase to be able to produce this event. We'll be doing a lot of that here in the next 45 to 60 days. Hopefully we'll have a website up by the end of January and social media and those things. But it does offer some challenges. And of course, with the construction going on for the next couple of years here on site, I've been playing around. Of course, we'll pick some names for the next couple of years for themes, but I'd love to have the word construction, like constructing fair fun or something like fun, just to kind of communicate that to folks that we definitely have, we're going to have an event here and it's going to be fun and we're going to make the best during the construction times. And I look forward to working with each and every one of the board members and hope to sit down one-on-one and kind of get your ideas of things that you'd like to see, your visions, things that you're passionate about to include or get involved with the fair, because it's everyone's fair and we need to make sure that we all get involved at some level. So.
Thank you, Scott, for that update. Just curious, with the timing of the fair being really soon, how are we looking at doing an RP or working with vendors for the traditional fair rides, et cetera?
That will be the biggest challenge. We're working right now to draft that RFP to go out. And of course, I think procurement will move pretty quickly. Carnival providers will, I think, really be interested to come here. The dates are open for the previous carnival provider. I reached out to them just to have a conversation. The biggest thing that during the RFP process, when we have a site visit for the potential providers, the number one question is layout. So hopefully by the time we get to that late January, February, we'll have a little better understanding of what things will be totally done, what things will still be under construction, and what we can use.
Good to see you again, Scott. Glad to have you back. I was really happy to hear you talk about sort of inclusiveness and this really being Nashville's fair. And hope we can sit down. What I would love to see is this fair among continuing to be a fair. Continuing to lean into the agricultural component that's always part of a good fair, and that exposition component, but also trying to, I think, tap into the really diverse city that this is now and is becoming more and more every day, and figuring out how to have a presence for all of the different parts of that community, the different international components that make up this community, and sort of really giving people a taste of what Nashville really is now, alongside everything bringing forward. I think we can harness both of those things. So I'm happy to hear that you have that sort of lens on the front end. That's great.
Thank you. Good.
That's it for you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for your time. That it for events, Laura?
Yeah, I'm going to relocate.
Okay. Okay. So, Fairgrounds Improvement Project, Stadium Mixed Use and Infrastructure Update.
Remove my mask here. Good morning, board, council, and staff. Again, pleased to address the board this morning. Also, happy holidays to everyone. I know we're in between holidays, so hope the holiday season has started off well and will continue well. In your packets, you should have the latest budget dashboard dated December the 10th. And I'm going to cover the dashboard this morning, but again, want to highlight that the figures that you're looking at this morning are likely representative of 45 to 60 days in arrear of actual activity, both as it relates to construction on site as well as FF&E and materials orders. So just want to make sure that that's addressed at the front end. But with that said, spending on the Fairgrounds Improvement Project, so everything Fairgrounds related, not including Fair Park, which I'll address in a second, spending has crossed $39.4 million. That leaves a remainder of $1.6 million approximately. And so as we've gotten towards the end of the project allocations there, we've been hovering around 95, 96%. It's not uncommon for those last 3 to 5% to really trickle down as you work to close out a project. I will say most of the activity recently has been in FF&E. Satrice and I, along with other staff, have been working to reconcile all of our figures and make sure that we keep that number up to date. And then the other area of activity, which you'll hear more about soon, is related to the multi-purpose building. If you've been able to check it out, great. If not, we're going to cover a little bit of that in GHP's report here soon. One thing I will call out attention to, that there are still funds allocated under the demolition of the existing structures. Of course, the demolition of those structures are complete. That allocation of funding is really related to temporary storage. And so what will happen is once the multi-purpose building is operational, we'll make sure that everything that the Fairgrounds needs is moved out of temporary storage, reconcile those funds, and then that line item will essentially be non-active. And then the other large section that you have there is grandstands and speedway. There's been no billing activity since the last report there. Again, funds allocated to help assess and analyze what the future of that space may be. But just wanted to give an update that no movements happened since November. If there aren't any questions on that section, I'll move to Fair Park. So Fair Park, inclusive both of remaining funds from Fair Park Phase 1, as well as the 2021 allocation of $7 million for Fair Park Phase 2, make up just over $7.2 million allocated to Fair Park. Again, there's no spend activity to report since November. I don't want that to make the board or anyone else think that activity is not happening there. Several meetings are happening. We've worked to coordinate a detailed survey, again, which will inform our updates to the design of the Fair Park Phase 2, but also will help address some of the items like what Laura mentioned earlier related to location of some of those billboard and their associated structures. Other than that, I'm happy to address any questions. Again, it's not necessarily an inactive project, but we just haven't got our invoicing and all of our billing submitted yet, and that's why it's not yet reflected here in terms of activity in the Fair Park Phase 2. No questions, I'll turn it over to Ron.
Any questions for Ed? No? Okay.
Thank you all.
Mr. Gobble.
Thank you, Ed. Good morning, Commissioners. It's good to be here. Tim DeBuse is going to talk a little bit about the multipurpose building in Phase 2 of Fair Park. So Tim's in our office. So, Tim.
Thank you, Ron. Good morning, everyone. Before we talk about the multi-purpose building, I wanted to give you just a quick update on that Fair Park Phase 2 project. So we have engaged the design team. We've had several meetings with Laura and her staff, but also with the Parks Department, Metro Water, NDOT, and other Metro agencies to talk about coordinating that construction. We've also had coordination meetings with the design team that is designing the bridge that's going over Browns Creek for Wedgewood extension. So a lot of behind the scenes things are happening. What we anticipate is sometime mid-January, we should have an updated set of plans from the design team that we'll again review with all of those parties again. And then we also have gone through procurement and solicited proposals for a construction manager. We received one qualified bidder. That bidder has been notified of the intent to award, and we're hoping to have them signed and on board by the end of January. So our hope is that the design drawings will be modified, the contractor will be on board sometime early February, and then we'll work collectively with both of those teams and everyone else to advance the project and talk about how we can get as much done as possible before the stadium opens in May. But we're anticipating anywhere from 12 to 18 months for Fair Park Phase 2 to be completed. So we're moving forward. You're not seeing anything yet, but there has been a lot behind the scenes. Any questions on Fair Park Phase 2? All right. Now, the multipurpose building. I think the most excited person in this room is David Lewis. He's going to finally get out of some Connex boxes. But this project is started in June, believe it or not, and we're hoping to be substantially complete in the month of December here. Just a reminder, the project consists of a 40 by 40 foot conditioned space on the inside. There will be heaters, so it will not be air conditioned, but it'll be conditioned for cold temperature. David will have tool and equipment storage areas, an office that will have air conditioning, and then a restroom for the staff that work out there. And then in addition, the covered space on the outside is 100 feet by 40 feet. That provides power and lighting for David and his staff. And then the site will be completely fenced with a gate for access and securing. We are reusing the existing lights out there, which is good. And then we'll be providing a gravel drive that encompasses the facility around all sides and also to drive into the facility. We are hoping to get a temporary occupancy permit here in December. The water and sewer won't quite be ready until January. And the temporary power, we're hoping to work on with NES so they can get some temporary power until the final power is done, also probably in January sometime. I've got a couple of pictures. You can see it's a traditional metal building, so it's fully enclosed at this time. The exterior is all but complete. You see a little bit on the left there, if go back one, Laura, there's a small retention area for water, so that will be completed as well. As you see, there's a large overhead area for David to store his equipment, materials, and this was really designed so that if funding is available or there is a need in the future, this could become enclosed, right? So the structure kind of is the same, indoor and outdoor, and then we enclose a smaller portion at the end, but it's got the flexibility in years to come if David and Laura or whoever determine that we need additional space to be enclosed, that's possible. On the inside, it's a little hard to see, but we'll have plywood on the interior perimeters, so David can use that to provide storage and store his tools and materials and such. The picture on the far right is the office. It's ready to start painting, so they're installing doors this week, and they'll finish painting next week. And then finally go to the next picture. That was it. All right. And then the restroom is in similar condition. It's all dried in. ready to paint, and basically all the fixtures will be installed, but just won't be available till water and sewer is available. So, any questions?
Any questions? Commissioner Weiner.
Given the recent spate of destructive weather, what is the durability of this and several of the other buildings in the area insofar as being able to withstand some of what we've seen lately? Tornadoes, high winds?
Yeah. So all of these buildings, just like this building here, are all designed to code, and the code requires a certain amount of wind strength that it be, strong enough to withstand. Honestly, only public safety buildings, traditionally, fire stations, police stations, those types of buildings are designed to the higher standard, which would help, with the tornado type winds. But everything is up to code. Everything is what's required. But unfortunately, those types of things, they don't design kind of in the south by where hurricane season is, they do design for hurricane winds. But up here, that's just not required and is pretty costly. But it is designed to the current code standards, which is pretty substantial, even with all that being said.
So I guess that just leads me to one more question. Is there a safe place anywhere on the campus that, in the event of oncoming weather?
I think Laura can answer that.
We do, and our safe place is actually in here in Expo 2 in our concrete block restrooms, as well as the concrete restrooms in either building. In anticipation of that storm, we did have some people that were residing in our RV lot, so we went out and communicated with them and made sure they were aware that they had a safe place in the building in the event of pretty severe weather. So we do talk to our events about that as well.
Thank you.
And then I'm certain there's also a safe place in the new stadium. So on the campus, there's multiple places that are safe for staff and visitors. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Quickly, the infrastructure project is proceeding. You can see the work. The bridge is coming together over Browns Creek. Obviously, with the stadium, and I'm sure they're going to be talking about an accelerated schedule to have the first opening in the spring, first game in the spring. This infrastructure project won't be complete at that time, but we are working with contractor to determine just what the conditions are and how to support that event and other events that's going to be happening in May and June. The goal is to have the thing complete, have the infrastructure project completed late summer or early fall with all the landscaping and things like that. So that's an overview. Any other questions that I can answer before I turn it over to Mary?
I'm going to embarrass Ron here for a second, if it's okay, Chair. Ron was recently awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award through AIA. He can tell you that it's Architectural Industry Association, but we're very lucky to have him on our team and wanted to congratulate him for that award. It's well deserved.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's a Lifetime Achievement Award. I guess I'm done. But anyway, we appreciate it. Now we'll turn it over to Mary.
Thank you, Ron. And you can't be done because you're doing too many vital things in this city right now. So you got to finish 2nd Avenue. You got to finish over here. Then we'll talk. Good morning, Ms. Cavara. How are you?
Good morning, and thank you, commissioners. I'll give you a brief update on the stadium as well as mixed use. And before I start, just a quick comment on the team's performance. We finished our 2nd year in MLS, finished 3rd in the Eastern Conference, got to the 2nd round of the playoffs, and unfortunately penalty kicks did us in, but another great run. So as everybody heard, last month when we updated the Sports Authority, we indicated that we had been able to move substantial completion from May of 22 to early April 2022. And our first match will be May 1st of 2022. And so a lot going on. A couple of construction-related items that we typically share. On the DBE front, as you guys know, we had a 30% requirement in our contract. We're currently still trending around 36% and really proud of that and being able to affect a lot of folks in the community. In addition to that, Mortensen Messer self-imposed a minority and female labor hour goal of about 20%, and they're currently trending at 46%. And so a lot of really good things going on in the stadium. And probably the statistic that I am most proud of is we've got over 400 plus days of construction, over 700 and some thousand labor hours, and we are accident free. And I'm knocking on wood to continue that, but it's a tribute to what the construction manager is doing on the site. And I know another topic that's of very much interest is our parking plan for the stadium. And so we've been working with traffic engineers. We've got a parking manager engaged, and at the January meeting, we'll share with both the Fair Board and the Sports Authority Board our plans for how we are going to bring in 30,000 people and get 30,000 people out with minimal disruption to the neighborhood. So more to come on that. And I'd like to share a few pictures of construction. And before I start commenting on this, I do want to also briefly share Dirk Melton was unable to join us today, and he indicated that the mixed-use project remains on track for construction beginning in early 2022. So this first photo is from the south end of the stadium looking toward downtown. You could see the significant work that's happened here. The back parking lot is almost complete. What we're calling the back of house, and this is where the commissary is located, team offices, locker rooms, press room, that's complete. It's all dried in, and they continue to finish the work on the roof membrane. And then on the right-hand side of the photo, or the east side, you could see where the grand stairs come up from Fair Park, and then to the right of that is the bioretention ponds. If you could go to the next photo. And so this is kind of flipping the view, and this is from the north side, and this shows the plaza in front of the stadium. And this is a spot that we expect to be activated for matches. It's also something that can be a great asset for the entire campus. And as a reminder of size, this is larger than the grass area in front of the Metro Courthouse. And so they're working on the landscaping, bioretention, and as we look at the stadium here, the front gate there is really the supporters entrance, and kind of the front door of the stadium is to the right side of that on the northeast corner there. Next slide, please. These are a couple or several shots of the interior of the bowl. So you could see they continue to work on installing the seating. The premium seating will start in January, but the bowl seating is probably about 60% complete. They're busily working on the pitch and installing kind of the underlying plumbing, piping, and everything there, and the grass will come in March. And so everything is looking good here, and really looking forward to completing this next spring. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Cavara? Commissioner Hemmer.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mary, for that. I really appreciate the update, and then also the comment about the parking. That's one thing that we've always been very concerned of, and seen the other stuff that's happened, like with the Greystone Quarry and things of that, like this year. And so it's given me heartburn. So hearing this is coming is good, welcome news. We appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cavara. We ready to move on to the next item? Is that everything? Okay. Next item, Bristol Motor Speedway update. Who will be providing us with an update? Mr. Phillips?
Good morning. Bill Phillips, Deputy Mayor to Mayor John Cooper. I'm actually substituting for Ben Eagles, who has been our point person on staff on this particular project. Ben is recovering from COVID. He's doing quite well. but the doctor said not before Thursday could he show up. So your meeting was on the wrong day for that. So. We are basically where we were a few days ago. We have the outside financial consultants going through every detail of the proposal. Once they have signed off and we are satisfied that it is ready and something that is good for the entire community to consider, it will be presented to you for you to take and go through a detailed public process of reviewing the proposal. We feel very good about it, and I want to congratulate Mary and the soccer team in that as I drove up this morning, it really hit me that they are going to be playing soccer there next May, I believe. So, and we are beginning to see this facility, the entire facility, come together in a master plan that will have a variety of activities for every segment of the community, whether it's racing, soccer, fairgrounds, animal exhibits, and of course the Christmas show and the flea market, as well as countless other things that Laura and her team have come together. So that's the report I have today on the Bristol Nashville proposal. We continue to look at it closely, and we are not going to present you with anything that we think has any flaw in it, so you can take that. On another note, if I may, you're down to 3 members. We're well aware of that. We have identified 2 people we are talking with to present to the council as a nomination for serving on your board. And if everything comes together, we will have that done in the next 2 or 3 days, and we will present that to the board. So we'll be in touch with you once everything has been confirmed with the individuals. We think that they are top-notch. They will bring new perspectives as well as solid backgrounds that will contribute to your deliberations for everything that you're doing. So, any questions?
Mr. Phillips, do you think that, where would that place the nominees? When would that put them before Metro Council? Would that be in late January, mid-January?
January 3rd.
Okay.
Is our goal. That will be the first meeting. The council meets on the 21st, and then the nominees would be before the council at the next meeting, right after the first of the year.
I do have one question about the consultant's report. Do you have any sense of that timeline when we might see that report?
Tom Cross from Legal is here. He may have a sense of a date. I do not. I just know that we've asked them to do it as quickly as possible, but as thoroughly as possible. So Tom, have you?
The consultant tentatively is expecting to be finished with the draft by the end of the year. We heard from him yesterday, and of course the work always takes longer than you expect, but we're still sort of expecting and hoping that we'll see something right around the end of the year and something to use shortly after that.
Thank you.
Gosh, Tom, I could have said that. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Phillips?
Well, let me, on behalf of the mayor, thank you for your service, not only to the fairground and its constituency, but to all of Metro. And so thank you very much, and happy holidays.
Thanks, Mr. Phillips. I did have a couple updates on this just for the rest of the board. A few days after Commissioner McAnally's resignation, she and I had a chance to sit down for a number of hours and review the work she's put in so far. And I'm sure you all saw that last night. She was kind enough to provide an overview of that, a really comprehensive overview, which was very much appreciated. found, that of course that Commissioner McAnally's priorities, at least for myself, matched up very well with my priorities in this process. So appreciate having that chance. As Commissioner McAnally stressed, while we've been waiting for that financial modeling and the reporting, that there has not been a lot of direct negotiation on operational details, and so still work to do there. I also had an opportunity to sit down for, I think 3 hours with Julie Bennett from Bristol Motor Speedway a week or two ago, and review a great deal of information, and receive a lot of information about where things stand in details. I'm hopeful. It seems that the Bristol folks really want to get to work and dig in on those next level of details that we have to dig in on. And so that was a really positive meeting, and I appreciate Ms. Bennett's time and willingness to spend all that time as a next step. And also have had a chance to sit down with Mr. Cross and our outside counsel to discuss what we do know right now about the financing. And I think set to sit down after this meeting as well. I've tried to make sure that with Commissioner McAnally's departure, we're still keeping things moving along as well. So let's see. Any other discussion on the BMS update? Okay. Next item is my standing item on community impact and speedway policy discussion. And before we get to that, Laura, I did just have one item before we dive in. I wanted to note I was able to visit at Bob Sargent's invitation at the last local race of the season in November. Spent some time with Bob in the skyboxes, and then go down to the pits and talk with some racers. Bob had arranged a demonstration for us, which was really appreciated in between races, where he kind of tried to demonstrate a difference between two late model car vehicles with utilizing different muffler types and also different setups, where the muffler was arranged and how it was oriented within the car. And I think Laura will agree that it was a pretty striking demonstration between the way the two sample vehicles were set up, and the difference in noise created was I don't know what the right word is, significant. We'll see. And so had a chance to meet with those racers, Billy Sisko and Mark Day. Really appreciate them being willing to do that. At least one of them, if not both, were not even supposed to be at the fairgrounds that day, and came down specifically to participate in that brief demonstration. So that was really nice, really kind, really great. And so thanks to them, thanks to Bob for setting that up. I think what that shows is what we can really accomplish when we really work together and problem solve. Bob's got some really good ideas on, and has really worked a lot hard on identifying mufflers that really help, and then also exploring, sort of uniform setups for cars that are transferable, not just here, so they don't have to make special adjustments here. That is admittedly asking a lot, but stuff that will be adopted elsewhere, and that's how we can make a real difference. So next season looks like there can be even more progress made. So just really want to thank those folks. Thank Bob for his continued hard work on being a good partner in that regard. For the rest of this community impact discussion, I did just want to have a brief discussion about a few items that are sort of really key to community impact. I think we've seen a lot of news coverage with the convention downtown last week, the racing awards, and the announcement of the financing model from the administration. So a lot of news coverage, and I'm sure the commissioners, like I, have received a lot of form emails over the past several days with a lot of information and sort of common themes again. And what often happens with announcement stuff is things get a little hung up, a little ahead of themselves. And I think my one big focus I have right now is making sure that, and appreciate Mr. Phillips saying it, having a real public process here as we go forward with the released plan, but also making sure we're all on the same page. Not because this is about reasons to not be in favor or to be in favor or not, but it's because we need to be accurate. And so we need to be all talking from the same page here. And it just occurred to me that it would be helpful, at least at this moment right now, just to have on a couple key issues, a lot of the things that I saw again and again in those emails weren't entirely accurate with where we are right now, but could be. And I just think it's important that we kind of all get on that same page. And so just put together a couple brief slides based on what we do know, what we don't know, and where we are to kind of update everyone here, update the community. First item is one thing I saw again and again in those emails, which is that there are going to be less racing days with this proposal. And that's not exactly clear right now. From the information I have, it looks like there could be a total of 2 or 3 more racing days, just because the bigger events are going to have more of fuller weekends, which is totally understandable. They're bigger events. Now, I think we could very well get to less racing days, and I think that would be a really laudable thing if we went down to, say, 9 racing weekends. But that's kind of where we are right now. Just probably at the moment, the proposal is a slight increase. The next slide is the topic I talk about every month, and I'm going to talk about it again, which is track rentals. I think the line we saw again and again in those emails we've been receiving is that Bristol is going to decrease track rentals from 60 to 25. Well, just pointing out again that the Fair Board already did that. We already reduced track rentals a few years ago, and I've been advocating to continue those reductions year over year. We've been a little bit frozen in that with contract extensions and what we can and can't change, but we're at 25 right now from 3 to 7 p.m. In the spring, Bristol talked about 20, and I think we're having more discussions than that. I had a good discussion with Julie Bennett about that, and I think that there's a lot of common ground there with what we're trying to do. We've got to make sure that we respect the 3 to 7 p.m. window, and I think we can get lower than 20, but that's where we are now. We're not at 60, and that reduction has already been done, and so just kind of recognizing what the status quo is and where we can progress from there to truly lower impact. The next item is noise mitigation. The line I think we've heard again and again, and I saw this in a lot of news stories, was that a sound study says that all racing noise will decrease by 50%. That's just respectfully not what the study says. And I think this is extraordinarily important that we have to be accurate. I'm thrilled that we have subject matter experts among our commissioners who can talk in detail about the science here. The study talks about local racing hopefully going down 50% in noise level, but there's some questions there about whether they're counting the impact of mufflers twice. But NASCAR level racing is going to be the same or a little bit louder, especially for the 2 square mile area surrounding the fairgrounds. And Laura, if you go to the next slide, we have a slide there showing what the 2 square mile area looks like. So again, noise alone, and I think that folks who are so focused on noise alone on the opposite side, that's not a reason to not move ahead with this proposal at all. I just think we need to be really clear with the community on what they can expect and what they can't. And to Commissioner Wiener's point, I think what Commissioner Wiener's talked a lot about is like perceived loudness and real perception there. And everybody needs to know what they're getting into. But I think that what we shouldn't be doing is saying all racing noise is going to decrease by 50%. We can't make a promise that I don't think it's scientifically possible to keep. And then the final point is just what this project is and what this project isn't. In the summer of 2019, I made an observation at a Fair Board meeting that what was being talked about here was an entirely new facility. Everything will be torn down. The track, the walls, the grandstands, the buildings, everything is going to be torn down and rebuilt. And that's going to cost money. Right now, we're looking at maybe 75 to 80 million before administrative costs. We don't know. We're going to get that financial reporting on the model and everything and kind of get a better sense. And as I think Commissioner McAnally highlighted in her email last night, we all know what's going on in the world of construction costs right now. And so I end on that slide just to say that this remains an enormously complicated project with a lot of financial details yet to be worked out, and all the operational details, which are so important for a long-term relationship like this. And so it's just that, you know, there are a lot of announcements, there's a lot of attention, but there's a lot of work to do every single day. And I think we're all up for it. So I think that hopefully the community will remain patient with us as we work. And I at least want to assure the community that I believe we'll have a lot of opportunities for public engagement of the actual full details here coming up over the winter. So thanks for that, running that slideshow, Laura. I appreciate it. Any discussion on any community impact items that the commissioners would like to talk about right now?
Chair, I think to your point, it's probably a little premature until we have all the data in front of us to go through and have an expansive discussion right now.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, so that concludes old business. Moving on to new business. The first item is election of officers.
Kick that off.
Okay, Laura can kick that off.
Yes, so as we talked about earlier with former Chair McAnally's resignation from the board's bylaws are very clear that Vice Chair, who was Commissioner Bergeron, ascends to run this meeting, but it is required in the bylaws that in the next meeting that we elect new officers. So traditionally, when we do this, we have a slate of officers and then come back and vote on the slate. We're all going to do that all today. So we need to both fill, out of the three of you, chair and vice chair positions. And so I just wanted to give you a little background on what the bylaws require and turn it over to you guys.
I have a question, a legal question, Alex. In light of the fact that there are now three, and in light of the fact that we have January 4th, potentially 2 new commissioners coming on board, does it make sense, and is it, I know we can do it in the council, but can we do it here, to suspend the rules, allowing our chair to remain our chair until we have our other 2 sitting members, and then have the election then? So just suspend the rules to defer until our January meeting.
There's not really a mechanism to suspend the rules, I'll say that. And if you want to do an amendment, it requires notice by mail beforehand. And another option you might be willing to consider is, while you do have to elect someone today, you could make a motion beforehand to limit the term of office to the meeting after the 2 members were appointed by Metro Council, and then you'd essentially have another election, if you prefer to do that.
And that was actually an option I asked Metro Legal about a couple days ago, because I did not see a mechanism to suspend the rules when I reviewed the rules, but I asked if that could be an option. And just to carry that through, I was thinking about that for the very same reasons. And
Great minds think alike.
yeah, if the commission is so inclined to entertain such a motion to, and my suggestion would be, just because delays happen, COVID happens, everything happens, that maybe it be fashioned as, I would be happy to serve as chair until such time, until the next meeting when we have 5 commissioners. At that meeting, at the next meeting when we have 5 commissioners, we will hold an election for chair again. I would be happy to serve. I would be happy to serve as chair in any condition. I am very excited to do so, but I'm ready to get to work in the interim right now, and have been working to make sure it's seamless, because we have a lot of work to do. So as to whether I'm willing, I am. And if we wanted to fashion it that way, I think that would be a really good way to then allow for a full commission to then elect have another election when we have 5 of us.
Alex, I was just gonna ask, how would you suggest we structure that motion if that was based on Commissioner Bergeron's, or Chair Bergeron's comments?
You'd want to have the chair go through the next meeting after the appointment was made, just so someone was running the meeting. So I'd say the motion would be to have the term of chair go through the Fair Board meeting following the nomination by council, the appointment by council of the 2 positions. And so at the next meeting, you'd still have that chair acting, but you'd have the election then, and the following meeting would be when the new chair takes over.
I guess just for point of clarity, your term is over in April, is that correct, or is it?
I believe that's correct.
Okay, is that correct? Okay, I was just making sure our timeline's right. Okay. Yeah, I think that sounds appropriate, and I'd be fine with that. I would just, add if it, I guess there's just a lot of things out of our control with the council and the appointments, and there's, it is what it is. We'll have three members until we have 5, so there's really not a lot to say about it in that regards, but appreciate your willingness to serve, and I think that sounds good to me.
Okay, so I'll move that Alex share exactly what this motion's going to look like.
I was fighting.
I know.
Well, okay, we'll say the motion for the chair will be, I'll try to restate this. Well, we're going to have an election for the vice chair.
Several, right?
Yeah, so we'll have, right now, you have a vice chair. So could change depending on how that works. So we'll say the motion will be for the chair's term to be from now through the meeting following the appointment of 2 new Fair Board members by Metro Council.
Second.
I think one of the commissioners would need to move that language, would make
He
that
did.
motion. Okay, the motion's made, okay, and so there's a motion by Commissioner Weiner, a second by Commissioner Hemmer. All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Now you have to do it for vice chair.
sure, yeah, okay, well, I first,
You need to do election for chair, yeah.
election for chair.
Because you move the format, now yeah, you move the format, now you need to have the election for chair.
Okay.
Temporary chair.
Got it,
And then
okay.
possibly temporary vice chair.
Got it, thank you. Okay, so, having approved that motion, we will now, elect, do we need to have a motion for the,
Yeah, just motion someone will need to nominate a chair.
okay, so now we would hear a motion to nominate the chair under those parameters.
Make a motion to nominate Commissioner Bergeron as chair.
Okay, having heard a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second to elect Jason Bergeron as chair of the commission, of the Fair Board, subject to the parameters already approved by the board. Is there any discussion?
Move approval.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So now we're done with that. With that piece, now we need a vice chair. Okay. Thank you to my fellow commissioners for the show of support, and I'm looking forward to however long it is until the next election, getting really hard at work at it. So with that move, we now have a vacancy for vice chair, and so we will need to pick from a very large pool of candidates for vice chair.
Do we have to do the same motion to do the format? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
That can be put in all one motion if you all want to.
Okay, so we can condense that down. I guess to start it out, commissioners, what are your thoughts? Let's talk.
Laura, did you bring straws today?
We could play rock, paper, scissors.
Seriously.
I'm happy to do it, to be vice chair if it serves the board. Sherry, if you have willingness to do it, I'm willing to do that too.
Rock, paper, scissors. Sounds like a really good plan.
Well, I don't want to choose between my two children. And I don't think that there's a bad choice here. We have Commissioner Hemmer's long tenure on the commission and knowledge base there. We have Commissioner Wiener's distinguished public service career and extensive experience in how the city runs. I don't think we can go wrong. I just wonder, it's more just a question of which of you is.
I'll make it easy. I'll make the motion to nominate Commissioner Wiener as vice chair of the Fair Board pending the next meeting, or the meeting after we have 5 Fair Board members.
I will second that motion. Okay, we have a motion and a second to elect Commissioner Wiener as vice chair of the Fair Board with a term running through the meeting, the first meeting when there are 5 commissioners serving on the board. Is there any discussion of that motion? Okay, all in favor of that motion?
Although I could present another motion that nominates you.
Okay, the motion is approved. Congratulations, Commissioner Wiener, and appreciate your willingness to serve as vice chair. Okay, I think that concludes our election of officers, and we can move on to the next item. That was really fun. Designation of alternate signing authority.
Yes, thank you so much on this. I will be doing some traveling over the holidays, and my ability to connect is suspect at best, so I thought it prudent in order to keep business moving, especially in the event that we do have contracts for new events that need to be signed in my absence, that we could designate David Lewis in my stead to sign any event contracts in my absence over the holidays.
I have a question. Do we know that he'll be local and available?
I did ask him, and yes,
Okay.
whether he likes it or not.
Okay. Yeah, so I can make the motion to move to approve David Lewis to perform the signatory responsibilities of Executive Director Womack from the period beginning December 27th, 2021 and ending January 4th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, that motion has a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion is approved. Next item for new business, staffing update.
Yes, that is me. So right now we have 3 vacancies. We have 2 vacancies in our maintenance and operations division. Unfortunately, what has been happening is David's been setting up interviews, and unfortunately, to date, they've all been no-call, no-shows. So that is a challenge. So I want to give just an extreme amount of thanks to the maintenance staff who is working extremely shorthanded. Thank you, Isaac, over there marking flea market booths. They've been working extremely shorthanded. They have really gone above and beyond. It's putting a lot of overtime, unfortunately, on their backs, but they're doing it with pleasure and know what needs to be done, and they're making sure that nothing slips through the cracks. So I want to thank everybody for pitching in. when needed, because we all just come together if more hands are needed. So we're working through that. The other vacancy is our other event services manager. That position has been posted. An offer has been made, but we are still working through some items with that candidate and hope to have that filled soon. In a related topic, which is also something that we're going to talk about with our mid-year budget update, one of the things that not just us is facing is difficulty in recruiting. Many of the other metro departments are also finding it extremely difficult to recruit and hire in qualified candidates. So one of the things that we requested from finance in our mid-year budget update was what the possibility is of having a salary study done, just to see really where we are in today's environment and what, if any adjustments need to be made as we try to bring people in. What we're also finding from a contracted standpoint is we do hire temporary workers, security, and medical to assist us in, especially with the flea market. Those rates have all jumped. We are paying over, I think, $4 more an hour more for temporaries just to get people to respond to our requests for need. Our medical, I think, went up almost $7 an hour. So we're seeing it on both ends, both from a recruitment, full-time employee status, as well as our contracted workers. So it's just a challenge. We're continuing to work with HR. They've been a great help. Finance has been a big help, but we did put in that request, and I believe other metro departments have indicated their support for a salary study to see if our wages are in line with industry standards. So coming soon.
The sales position, do you feel like that will be filled by the end of the year?
Yes.
Other questions or discussion on this item? Okay. Next item is mid-year budget update.
So Zatrice and I had an opportunity yesterday morning to meet with Office for Performance Management, also Office of Budget, to talk about our end of year. So we've put together projections, not only from a corporate sales and event perspective, our flea market, and also an initial fair budget. The good news is we don't expect to exceed our spending authority, but we don't forget we also increased our spending authority by $663,000 when we got our reimbursement from the HUD funds, the CDBG money. So we do have a mechanism there to pay for any upstart fair costs. So we're working through that allocation and so that we can put those monies in the proper expense account so we can start making some purchases of supplies. And Scott mentioned things like website design and logo design, things like that. So Satrice, if you want to kind of take it over, if there's anything in particular you'd like to share about our budget update.
I requested from finance to have the fair's budget separate from our operating budget so that we're able to track revenue and expenses, and they agreed to that. So we're excited about them having their own program budget so that we can see where we are financially as it relates to the fair, whether we break even, we have a profit or a loss. And so I suggested that, and they agreed. I will be doing an allocation for that this week. Hopefully we'll get together with Laura and we'll allocate that. And that's pretty much it that I have.
Scott did mention in his update that we have several procurement activities that are going to occur. So we've identified some that we think can just be an intent to bid. These are some of our livestock panels, for instance, that we can have very detailed specifications that are advertised through procurement, as well as some interior things like aluminum truss systems that we can really manipulate to support a lot of different needs. The good thing that we're also looking at is things that we can use for fair that can also generate revenue from a rental standpoint to support our other events. So that is a really important aspect of this, that we'd like to generate, you know, perpetual revenue from the things that we procure for fair. So we're being really smart and thoughtful about what we buy so that it has that ongoing flexibility.
Okay, Commissioner Hemmer.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just, do we have a preliminary budget for the fair that we're working from yet?
We do, Scott, I love his budgets because he's got three different models that we're kind of looking at right now. A lot of it's what ifs, you know, what if we have this ticket price versus this ticket price versus this one? And then also whether or not we have maybe a bigger name musical entertainment, if we can pull that off. That certainly would be the most lucrative option at this point, but we also want to be very conscientious about being affordable, because bringing a family of 4 with entry tickets plus ride tickets can be an expensive endeavor, and we want to make sure that we stay within a price point that is family friendly. So all that being said, we've been using the $1 million mark for revenue expenses.
And since, just refresh my memory, since this is all net new, are we requesting this out of next year's budget?
We will. So the $663,000 that we're looking at moving over into the fair budget this year, a lot of that is one-time startup costs. It is procuring specific pieces of equipment that we need to use moving forward. And so we will not see that as a recurring cost. When we start building our budget for FY23, we'll get into more of the service and the labor, the premiums, you know, insurance, you know, all those other items, travel, bringing judges in for the livestock competitions. So that is, you know, security, sanitation, cleanup. So you'll see that as a recurring item from year to year. So we're going to be preparing that budget, and that will be part of our budget submission to council this spring. And I'll remind you that at the beginning of the year, we were approved for $2.9 million of ARP funds to be used to supplement, knowing that we were experiencing closure and revenue impacts due to the pandemic. So we're going to be working with budget and how that is used this year, because we are generating revenue that was not anticipated at the time this current fiscal year was created, and how that is carried on over to next year when we know that we're going to need an increase in our spending authority because of the fair.
Just curious, what equipment is needing to be purchased?
For the fair?
Yeah.
So what we're looking at is the bulk of it is livestock panels. Again, we're looking for aluminum trusses that are flexible. It's kind of like a rector set, so we can use it for signage, wayfinding, portable light towers. We're looking at a way to separate some of the expo centers long ways. All 3 of these buildings are 150 feet wide. And so if we can purchase one set of hard walls for 150 feet, they will service all 3 buildings. We're looking at some 12-foot pipe and drape that will contribute to some of the entertainment options that we'll have inside. We also need display cases. So for our creative arts, quilting racks to display quilts, and shelves and display cases for the different types of arts and crafts and food items that are entered into competition, things that will support the FFA and 4-H kids with their displays. And of course, some of the items for livestock educational pieces.
I guess what's going through my head is, we now have an opportunity to create, a vision for what this Nashville Fair needs to be, a lot to what Commissioner Bergeron was talking about. And I say it's opportunity is that we're not as burdened to what we've, had been having to do with the state fair, and in particular, and just being that it is a very expensive startup endeavor, maybe we again take this as an opportunity to think what may be different, what may be more Nashville specific, what may be, quite frankly, even more minimum viable product for this year. And so having said that, really rethinking the agricultural, components of this, if it's a huge startup cost for, the livestock panels, the judges, that might not be the best thing we can do this first year. We're already, essentially very constrained resources wise, time wise. So as you're doing planning, Scott and Laura, that may be something that, just to think about, because when I think about, the fair and what really drives people here, it's the rides, it's the events, and, some of the other stuff that, we can get done very easily from now until, the end of the year through the RPs and other stuff. And so that might be more of a long-term strategic planning. Just a thought.
No, I really appreciate that. And Scott and I have talked about that a lot. We kind of weigh that piece of it versus coming out strong. We've got one chance to do a first fair and to catch people and to be that place where they want to come back year after year. And we've got one chance to do that. So the effort for this fair needs to almost be over the top, because we don't want to be able to claw our way out of it, if it's not quite the quality that, lets people want to come back in subsequent years.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But, also just knowing that it's essentially 8 months to go live, you always have to prioritize, at this point too. So I trust your guys' judgment, but I just also urge you to think differently. We do have an opportunity to create that, when you think Davidson County, you think music, you think, of other things. It doesn't have to be, strictly a traditional fair. It can be, be a new Davidson County Nashville Fair.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked a lot about this board's desire. You've talked about it for some time, about maybe creating some sort of STEAM or STEM component and what that can look like in partnership. We really want to establish solid relationships with the public school system. It could be, something fun with like a robotics competition or something like that. We have a lot of industry here in Tennessee. You're right, it's not all agriculture. There's a lot of value to educating kids in Nashville about where their food comes from. So there is a really good purpose behind some of the livestock and how that educates those students, but also to expand it to some of our current industry, which is very specific to Davidson County and the surrounding area. So we will definitely take that into consideration. I think some of those ideas also can be talked about when you meet with Scott individually, to kind of give him your thoughts on what maybe new items that you'd like to see and new activities.
I just want to add one thing to this discussion, and it's the notion that we're going to be recruiting more like bar exams and licensing exams. How much of this equipment can be reused, for example, the partitions that we had talked about before? What of the materials that we'll be getting for the fair are reusable, and can we use that to capitalize on attracting more of these exams? And then the second piece that I wanted to share was the fair's a great opportunity for solid public-private partnerships. You've got the Amazons and the Oracles out there who absolutely are wanting to promote more tech folks and help the kids come up, bring women into the engineering and into, you know, the accounting and IT fields. And this is a great opportunity for us to really expand the scope and include with livestock and agriculture, et cetera, these other options for kids.
Well, the exciting thing even about agriculture and farming today, largely it is becoming much more technology-based. So just by educating on, you know, it's very few farms these days, dairy farms in particular, are hand milking. A lot of that is they manage their farms utilizing a very high technology systems. So, I mean, those are things that we can add, and it's certainly discussions that we've had in Scott's Open and has been, and trying to think of some new ways to present maybe some of the traditional information.
Any other discussion on this? That's good discussion. Okay, public art update.
So I will run the slides. We have Attilio Murga here from Nashville Arts Commission, and he has an update on where we are with our public art project and some upcoming public engagement opportunities.
Good morning, board. So just wanted to start off by thanking you again for having us here today. We're making really, really great progress in terms of the large iconic sculpture that's going to be found up here at the grassy knoll on the corner. Right now we're in the community engagement phase. So far we've worked with a lot of other, you could go on to the next slide by the way. We've worked with a lot of local community groups such as Tag Action Group, 54 down the street, and a lot of metro schools. But one of our biggest pushes where we've been getting a lot of people's feedback and also engagement is through our online survey link, where we ask 4 general questions and people are giving us their thoughts, words, such as encouragement, and in some cases poetry. So one of the things that the artist Blessing Hancock wanted to do was really include the community and get their voice. So hence she named the piece Loqui, which means Latin, which is Latin for to speak. And myself and another colleague have been going through these entries, and it's been really, really interesting to see all of the feedback that we've been getting, submissions for that matter. One of the things that with the engagements, we have been doing them online and then also in person. And of course in schools, but also we are also looking at doing a Fairgrounds community engagement coming up soon. We're working with Laura. And we did extend the period a little bit more so we could add more people. We were going to end it in November, but now we're looking at January. And that just gives us more opportunity to include more of the community and get their voices. And if you go to the next slide, one of the greatest things that also came up with this and why we, the selection panel, the community-led selection panel selected Blessing Hancock was that Blessing really wanted to bring in a local artist to handle most of this community engagement. And the artist selected was Miriam Speyer out of Madison. And she's worked with a lot of programs within Metro Arts, but she also works a lot in the private sector here and also works in schools. Teaching kids, you know, art. So she's the main one that's been driving the force, and so far it's been a great success. And that's pretty much all we have. Do you guys have any questions?
Commissioner Hammer?
Thank you for the presentation, the update. We've been very interested in this. When is the timeline, or maybe talk through the timeline when the community engagement is supposed to end, and when do you expect to, you know, start seeing things move?
Right, so we started in October, And Blessing essentially just wanted to do it a month. But then we found the opportunity to extend it a little bit longer. So we're at this point, don't hold me to it, but I'm looking at the end of January. So let's say February 1st. But it's a possibility that we may extend it a little bit more because at the end of the day, we're collecting as many entries as possible. And we need to, because it's going to be a fairly large piece. In one of those mock-up images there, yeah, I know it's super tiny. Essentially, all those words are going to cover the entire scope of that art piece, inwards and outwards. So we need as much, I guess, characters as possible to fill. So that's one of the main decisions why we decided to extend it, which then opens the opportunity to include more people.
I guess in terms of like final proofing, do y'all review all the words, make sure there's nothing, uncouth or anything?
Yeah, that's actually the thing. I was thinking about that on the way over here. So I read everything. And so far we've gotten over 100 submissions. And if you think about it for questions, it's a paragraph each. So it's been a lot. And so everything that it's specifically, if it doesn't follow through some of the guidelines that we've already set on there on what the purpose of this is, it's not gonna, if it doesn't meet that criteria, it's not gonna be included. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, I've seen rants going on about how, terrible certain things are, and it's just like, nope, that cannot be included. To things of like, Molly and Jake forever, that's obviously not gonna fly. But most of the feedback that we've gotten, or submissions that we've gotten is, which I've heard from you today, just like diversity of the city, how the inclusion and how the growth and how, not that we don't want to lose the sense of Nashville, but we could also morph into something new and also keep, the past. So it's been interesting to hear all these voices. And I mean, if you'd like, at the very end of the day, once we, go through all that, I'd be more than happy to share all those, I guess, submissions with you, so then you could see what it is. But essentially, it's going to be on that piece at the end of the day.
Yeah, I would say, it's probably a trust but verify. I would say you should please share with Laura, and we'll go from there. But no, thank you so much for all the work on this. We're really excited to have this part of our component. So,
thank you. Anything else?
Any other questions? Thank you for that presentation.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think that concludes our agenda for today. Do I hear a meeting to, no, any other items?
yes, just, I know we talked about we did the elections and stuff, but we didn't really talk about the ongoing, work with that Aaron was doing along with the racing items. And so with you being chair, my assumption is you're going to be continuing that work from the negotiation standpoint with, as the board representative with Laura, and, things that we're going to be starting, I guess, I'm assuming not now, right after the holidays.
Well, that was my understanding based on the discussions we had last year, the chair would be working in that regard. And to reiterate, just to ensure that there was no gap. That's why I met with Commissioner McAnally immediately upon her resignation. And like I said, I've had meetings with Bristol representatives, council. I have another meeting with Laura and council as soon as we finish this meeting to try to make sure that there's no gap and no let off. So yeah, all full steam ahead. And I think the thought Laura and I had discussed was, hopefully once we have the chance to have another, some discussions with Bristol and all of our lawyers, getting to far enough along with operational details that then allow those public meetings to occur, such as some sort of joint meeting along the lines that we had for soccer with the Sports Authority. And I still need to understand all the pieces of who will be involved, but the Sports Authority board, I think a public meeting like that where we really put the information and have enough information to share. I thought that was a really positive meeting that we had, public comment, we had questions from multiple boards. I think we should involve council so that, and I think Councilman Bradford was here, and I think he's ready to do that. I think it's a matter of getting that financial report back and then having a little more operational details so that the public meetings have details, right?
Yeah.
To be able to share. You know, it's good that we started in the spring, but in the spring, we didn't have a lot of details to share yet. And so I think we still need to do that so that everyone knows what we're getting. So we can't do it too soon, but we need to do it soon. We have a lot of oars in the water right now.
Great. Yeah, I think with all the stuff we heard today, it sounds like things are lining up, and at least we'll be, you know, and particularly you will be in a position to have all that information back first of the year. And, you know, I guess, you know, for January is going to be pretty important, and it sounds like a lot of moving pieces, so. Good.
Yeah, I think so. And I think one of the first questions I asked Laura was, you know, when are we going to do that public meeting? And it is kind of a little chicken of the egg situation. We do have to make sure we get a little more meat on there as to what some of the details are. But definitely, I'm foreseeing in the next month or two having at least one of those. And Bristol's folks had previously promised to me they're going, once we have a fully detailed proposal, they're willing to return to all of the neighborhood groups that they've already met with to go over the real details too. And I appreciated that as well, because that's an important piece.
Yeah,
so that's great news.
I guess with the holidays coming upon us, Laura, and it sounds like having that study back first of the year would be good for, you know, I don't know if y'all have any meetings on the books yet, but having something before our January board meeting, at the first year before a January board meeting would probably be pretty beneficial.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.